Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome. Please come in, get settled in. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the 21st Century Seneca Falls Virtual Town Hall. We are so excited to have you here. I also want you to take a quick look at this welcome screen that we have because we have used all of the words that you have given us in your Zoom registration about what makes you the most hopeful for 2025 and beyond. So we took your feedback, we took what you had to say, and we made a really great word cloud out of it. And without further ado, I will actually get us started with some opening remarks by our Executive Director of Represent Women, Cynthia Ritchie-Terrell. And Cynthia, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Tori, and thanks to everyone who's joined our town hall today. Thanks to the amazing team at Represent Women who made this gathering and so many other good things happen. And thanks to all the advocates who are working across the country and around the globe to build women's power. The first Seneca Falls Convention was held on a few very hot days in July of 1848 in upstate New York, not far from where I grew up. In 1848, women had no legal identity apart from their husbands. They were barred from signing contracts, from owning property, from getting divorced, and from going to school for the most part. So many other things. The 300 or so women and men who gathered in Seneca Falls wrestled together over how to address the inequality that women faced. While Frederick Douglass played a key role at the original Seneca Falls Convention, women of color were not allowed speaking roles. Despite significant differences among those gathered about strategy, they ultimately came together to sign the Declaration of Sentiments. And here are a few key passages. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And the history of mankind is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations on the part of man toward woman, having a direct object, the establishment of an absolute tyranny over her. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. What followed was a long list of facts to ground this claim, which you can read in the link that's being shared. The declaration concludes with this. Now, in view of this entire disenfranchisement of one half of the people of this country, their social and religious degradation, in view of the unjust laws above mentioned, and because women do feel themselves aggrieved, oppressed, and fraudulently deprived of their most sacred rights, we insist that they have immediate admission to all rights and privileges which belong to them as citizens of the United States. In entering upon the great work before us, we anticipate no small amount of misconception, misrepresentation, and ridicule. Reactions to the first Seneca Falls conventions were tepid at best, with some calling the assembly unfeminine and immoral. And it took another 70 years to pass the 19th Amendment to the US Constitution that granted suffrage to women. It took another 45 years to pass the Voting Rights Act that ensured all women could vote. And the struggle to defend that right continues. While women have made huge strides since 1848 and now outpace men in graduation rates for both high school and college degrees, we still haven't passed the Equal Rights Amendment. Women are still paid less than men for similar work, even more so for women of color, and women candidates and elected officials face serious threats of violence. Nearly 250 years after the founding of this nation, women remain underrepresented in the executive branch, with just 12 women governors and so far 0 women presidents. In the legislative branch, where women hold just 28% of seats in Congress and a third of all state legislative seats, and in the judicial branch, where women are represented in all offices. Black women, who are among the most likely to vote, are underrepresented in all 3 branches of government and at all levels. Women of color overall, disabled women, rural women, and young women are also seriously underrepresented. And Democratic women now outnumber Republican women in office 2-1. With democracy in crisis in the United States, we believe that we need all voices at the table to fulfill the dream of so many of us to build a more perfect union. And I'm so glad that you have joined us as we answer the call from our sisters in 1848 that concluded the Declaration of Sentiments with this. I quote, "Use every instrumentality within our power to effect our object. We shall employ grants, circulate tracts, petition the state and national legislatures, and endeavor to enlist the pulpit and the press on our behalf. We hope this convention will be followed by a series of conventions embracing every part of the country." And so we gather here today to begin a new chapter in the call for women's equality. Back to you, Tori.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I really appreciate it. Thank you for kicking us off. And hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope that you are doing so well. My name is Victoria Pelletier, and I'm the National Partnerships Manager with Represent Women. And I'm so excited to welcome you all to our 21st Century Seneca Falls virtual town hall. So what would be great while we all get settled in is if you can introduce yourself in the chat. So your name, your organization that you work for, and the city that you live in so that we can get to know one another. And while you all do that, I will make sure I set the scene for us of how today's town hall is going to work. So as Cynthia described, and as most of us know, the original Seneca Falls Convention took place in 1848 in Seneca Falls, New York, and was looked at as a significant event that shaped the women's suffrage movement. So women gathered together to advocate for women's rights and freedoms, including but not limited to the right to vote, and adopted a declaration of sentiments demanding change. And because Represent Women is an organization focused on building women's political power through systems change, and because it's been 176 years, our team was like, why don't we just write another one? And created a 2024 Declaration of Sentiments advocating for systems change, intersectionality, and representation in all levels of government. And I want to take time to thank some of our partners, the original co-signers of this statement, who helped craft it with us. So Vote Mama Foundation, She Should Run, Vote Run Lead Action, Fair Vote, Rank the Vote, and all of you for continuing to share it and sign it. We love having your support, and this statement will live on the Represent Women website. So if you haven't signed it yet, there's still plenty of time. Please sign it, please share it. And again, we really appreciate all of your support. And what better way to celebrate this declaration than with our very own Seneca Falls Town Hall with a diverse lineup of speakers and a really incredible virtual audience. So here we are, we have made it. The 21st Century Seneca Falls Town Hall begins now. And thank you all so much again for being here. And a couple of notes before we jump into our first speaker. So as you know, the chat is on. As you can see, this is a natural town hall format. So please engage with us, share your thoughts, use the reaction buttons, and send our panelists lots of support while they are speaking. As you can also see, this is a Zoom meeting format. So we are in a meeting format. We are not in a webinar, so we can all see each other. So feel free to turn your camera on and say hi and celebrate with us as we keep the momentum high. We're talking about women. We're talking about representation, and that's exciting. So again, please feel free to turn your camera on and engage with us as you like. That brings me to my next point. Of course, be respectful. So we have the eyes of the Represent Women staff monitoring the chat, monitoring the video. Again, this is a space celebrating women and women of color. And the reality many of us face is that some people just don't like that. So we will swiftly remove any disruptions immediately. We want to protect this space. We want to keep it celebratory. So if you see anything that we're not seeing, please chat myself or another Represent Women staff member and let us know. And we are officially scheduled to 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. However, we'll likely keep this meeting open beyond that, just so everybody can grab links and engage with one another. This is an opportunity for us to build power together. So we would love to use your quotes on our social media platforms. If that's something you'd rather us not do, then please let us know. And this meeting is also being recorded, so we will make sure that we share that out as soon as possible. We'll try to take some reactions as well in the chat, and may ask some of you to come off of mic at the end of this panel as well to share your thoughts. So please be prepared for that. And finally, Represent Women is a nonpartisan organization. Apparently, there's an election that's coming up. But that being said, it's very exciting and historical having a woman at the top of the ticket. But this is a Seneca Falls rally. This is not a rally for any specific candidate. So please keep that in mind as you engage in the chat with us. We have a wide range of perspectives and lived experiences in this virtual room. And our focus is on continuing the momentum forward and increasing women's political power, regardless of what happens in November. So please be kind, please be respectful. And again, thank you so much for being here. And I think I've covered everything. I'm done talking. I'm really excited to get started. So thank you again for joining us. And I'm really excited to introduce our first speaker, Erin Vilardi, founder and CEO of Vote Run Lead Action. Erin, thank you so much for being here, and please take it away.
Hello, everyone, and I'm so excited to be here. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces and new people. I thought a lot about my own personal history. I have been working to advance women's representation since I ran for class president in the 8th grade. And I did that after, talking to my sister who went off to college and essentially took her first women's studies class. There was a sign outside my school, my public school, that said goodwill towards men. And, after 2 days of loose leaf paper and organizing the kids on the bus, of course, we got that sign changed to say happy holidays to each and every one of us. But ultimately, that's a quick story to share how I have been creating platforms for women, creating spaces, being able to recognize the quiet times and the quiet representations of where we exclude women. And I think the women of 1848 and the women of 2024 are sharing a moment in our ability to make history right now, our ability to tap into our own political power that has been often shortchanged, undervalued, and sort of managed into a nice to have and not a must have. Women's representation and women's power is a must have, not only in American democracy, but around the world. And we see this straight out of an authoritarian playbook in the global democracies that is happening right now. That the use of women, of gender, of rolling back women's rights is a part of undercutting the democracy. So when we understand the root cause of this work, we realize that it is so important for us to be represented. And it's not just important for us to be represented because we are better at government. And many of us here will talk about the ways in which we do that and the 30 years of research that says that. But it is simply a fair and just thing to see yourself in the democracy. If you are a voter, a citizen of the democracy, there is an expectation that you see yourself, and not just for women, but for women of color and for the growing gender expansive community in our country and abroad. The UN report on the 2030 goals, whether we will hit the 2030 goals for women, the number one thing that they said as a roadblock to all the other issues is women's leadership. If we do not advance the leadership of women, the other issues that we care so deeply about don't actually accelerate at the pace that we need them to do. And I think we know, in a way I wish we didn't, that time does not equal progress, right? That we have to work to continue to hold on to the rights that we have secured. And that often when we take 2 steps forward, we can sometimes take 2 steps back. We have to look at our history in the ways that we, as a women's movement, have shortchanged women of color, as we are inclusive of women with disabilities, of the gender expansive community, and how we can learn and be better. But I have been doing this work across the country, as I said, now 22 years. It was my double major in college, of which my dad asked, what are you going to do with gender studies and politics as a double major? And I said, I'm going to change the world. And so many of the women that you are going to hear from today are literally doing that. We have some coming from a bus out there turning out voters as we speak. We have women who are bucking their party. And we have, I think, one of the smartest minds in Cynthia Ritchie-Terrell on the connection between the systems and structures that are necessary for us to advance women's political leadership as organizations like mine at Vote Run Lead get hundreds and hundreds of women to run for public office. So we're out here right now at Vote Run Lead and Vote Run Lead Action, training women to run for the state house because that is the critical lever for us to create the kind of country that we want. We have over 542 candidates on the ballot in 2024. I think about 2/3 of them are running for the state house. I see some of our alumni on this call right now. It is so wonderful to see your faces, and it is very possible. I know at this moment where my daughters have less rights than I have had for the past 40 some odd years is a hard moment to be in. I also think that is a power that we are going to see at the polls, not just now in early voting, but in November. And I do think that we are about to see the first woman president of the United States. the first woman of color president of the United States. So thank you for being a part of today. Please don't reinvent the wheel when it comes to this work. Cynthia has done this for decades. She has the right solutions. Locally, you have the right solutions. Folks like Delegate Glass on the call have the right solutions about how to do this work. Link up, join up, use the resources that are out there. VRLHQ is the place for you to go. If you've got a local group trying to get women elected, all of the resources are free, from Field to GOTV, and some of the women on this call are your trainers for that. So we have the power, we have the solutions, and now we just need to move the political will. And I believe it is truly happening. So thank you for having me, and back to you, Victoria.
Thank you so much, Erin. We really appreciate you, your work, your partnership. I was actually just putting VRL HQ in the chat, but of course,
Great.
our communications manager, Ariana, just beat me to it, and it is in the chat for all of you. So please, I encourage you to click that link, engage with us, engage with Vote Run Lead. And Erin, thank you so much for being here and for all of your incredible words. We very much appreciate it. And I want to keep us moving. I have so much that I want to say. I have so many reactions. Also, the thing you said about we are better at government, because I'm in a women-led council body for the first time, and there's a lot of movement happening in Portland, Maine, and so that feels really great to be able to work with women that are just wanting to get work done and wanting to build representation. So I really appreciate all of the words that you said. And moving us right along, because we have so many speakers today, and I'm super excited to hear from everybody. We will go right over to Rhyane Wagner, who is the Senior Policy Manager of Black Voters Matter. Rhyane, thank you so much for being here. Please take it away.
Thought it was me. I was about to start talking on mute. Good afternoon, everyone. I am actually in Ohio. We're on the blackest bus in America right now. We're in the streets getting our communities to get out the vote. So my internet connection is going to be a little spotty, so I apologize in advance. We're out here doing the work. So we got 13 days left ahead of this very critical election. So we are all hands on deck. We are out in these streets. So Um, I just wanted to thank our hosts for inviting me to such an incredible panel. I'm honored to be here on behalf of Black Voters Matter Fund and sharing my perspective on the importance of women in elected office and government overall. I'm also honored to be here in the ways that my ancestors were unable to be in the first Seneca Falls Convention. Um, Black women, quite frankly, are the backbone of democracy and movement work, particularly the civil rights victories of the last 60 plus years. I hope that I'm doing at least my small part to continue the work that so many powerful Black women before me started. I am a daughter of the Deep South, specifically Memphis, Tennessee. And so this is a huge opportunity for me to be here and really share why I think it's important for representation of women in government, and not just elected office, policy folks, consultants, lobbyists. I want to see us everywhere in our fullest authentic selves. I was drawn to the pledge, to be honest, because I felt like a duty to sign the pledge because my ancestors could not. Their voices were not heard, to be honest. And still, in many ways, we are fighting to be seen and heard. Women make up half the population and should be reflected in our government and elected office and behind the scenes. When we see ourselves represented fully and authentically, and sort of disappears from us. And I just want to say to the women watching, sis, you are enough and qualified. There is no perfect moment or time to seize the opportunity. A quote that really sticks out to me over the last couple of weeks was doubt kills more dreams than failure. There's so many mediocre white men who have all had all of the confidence, all of the audacity to run for office. So please don't sell yourself short. For those of you watching and listening, you are enough and very capable of being a decision maker and in being in decision making position. And so why do we need more women in political leadership? Our leadership needs to reflect society, full stop. We're the decision makers in many aspects of our daily lives. Why not us? We're our own saviors, y'all. No one is going to do it for us. And so, um, a lot of the democracy reforms that we support at BVM, we center Black women. There are a bunch of fearless Black women on our staff. We walk it, we talk it, we live it. And our current political system tends to favor those who have access and money. Um, and I'm here with a community of women on this panel that are trying to change that, encourage women to run for office. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a law degree to do this. And when we have a more diverse candidate pool, I'm thinking of, Minnesota, I believe it was St. Paul's City Council went from being predominantly white men to women of color because of a lot of the democracy reforms, like ranked choice voting, proportional representation, um, that are starting to really take hold across the country. So I don't want to take too long because I'm on the bus. I'm trying to speak quickly enough before we make our next stop. I would encourage those of you to use your privilege and resources as an ally to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. Um, Performative allyship will not work. We need to be in this together. We cannot choose, a lot of us, women of color, we cannot choose between our race and gender whenever the moment suits us. And so it is incumbent upon us, so those of us with privilege and access, to be willing to make a sacrifice. What are you willing to risk to advocate for those Black and brown women that can't be in the room at that moment? Are you speaking up in spaces where we may not be able to? Know when to step up and step back. Seeing Black women in leadership, power, and decision-making positions in politics should be the norm, not the exception. That is the reality I hope we get to see as a country, where our abilities aren't constantly up for debate. This idea of readiness when it comes to us needs to go away. We've been ready. Many of us, again, have been making decisions in our households and in our other daily aspects of our lives. So let's just, I will end with that. um, and representation goes beyond merely having a Black face, right? It's about having a seat at the table. I don't want to just see Black women in power. I want to see them making decisions. I want to see them at every level. I often tell people local and state elections matter even more than what's going on in DC. And that's where, quite frankly, I'm seeing a lot of these women win these elections. And it's really exciting time. These strange times we're in, but it's still a deeply exciting time to be a woman in politics. And voting is just a tool. It's not the only path to change. And so, again, I'll leave you with those of you watching who are thinking about it. You are enough. You are the change you want to see. Thank you. And I will hand the mic back over. We say pass the mic back over to Tori.
Rhyane, thank you so much. There was so many amazing quotes that were just in the chat, incredible things that you said, joining us live from the Blackest Bus in America, doing the work on the streets. We just couldn't ask for more. So thank you so much. And please give love to every single person on the bus. I put a link to actually from a news link about the Blackest Bus in America in the chat. We also put Black Voters Matter contact information in the chat. So Rhyane, thank you so much for joining us. I know how busy you are, and we really, really appreciate it. So thank you again for being here. And we will move right along. What I love about Zoom meetings is the fact that we're going all over. We're going all over the nation. We started in Maryland, we started in Maine, and now we are going to Alaska to visit with Alaska Senate President Cathy Giessel, who has joined us today, which I'm so, so happy to have Cathy here. So thank you so much for all that you do. I know how busy you are. And without further ado, Cathy, please take it away.
Thank you, Victoria. I hope you can hear me. You'll let me know if you can't, but thanks so much for inviting me. Yes, I'm Cathy Giessel. I'm a state senator here in Alaska. I've served in the state Senate for 12 years. You know, I was raised by a mother that told me you can do whatever you want to do. And she always encouraged me, you'll never know if you can do something unless you try. I really want to underscore what Rhyane was just saying, that doubt kills more dreams than failure. That's exactly the kind of message that my mother always gave me. After she had raised her 3 children, at age 45, she went to law school and ended up admitted to the bar and doing pro bono work for seniors. But in following in her footsteps, I ran for the state Senate. I had never served in the legislature. I'm actually a nurse practitioner by profession, but my motivation in signing on to the Seneca Pledge is that I think women don't understand how critical we are to the legislative process. So I'm going to call out a study. As a nurse practitioner, I tend to focus on science and studies and evidence-based policy. And there's a neurobiologist named John Medina. He is a professor in the School of Medicine at the University of Washington, and he wrote a book called Brain Rules for Work. And in it, he highlights a study that was done by a woman named Anita Woolley at MIT. She wanted to find out what made smart, productive teams so smart and productive. And I think you can guess the answer, but let me just tell you what the study looked at. She examined 700 individuals and watched them work in teams. And she found that the superpower that teams had was how they behaved toward each other. Number one, when team members were able to read each other, to understand the social cues of others on the team, that was a superpower. Another superpower, when team members took turns in conversation. In other words, they weren't interrupting each other, respecting each other. Another superpower. The third one was more women in the group made the group more productive and more smart. So what she called the qualities were social sensitivity. And she said that, listening to each other is such a critical piece of working together. She found that men interrupted women 33% of the time more than they interrupted their colleagues, men. So that was pretty interesting. And this was a huge factor in a group forming trust. Trust is the foundation for all of us, you, I, all Americans working together, not interrupting, but listening to each other, hearing each other's message. She also found that the more women in a group, the more that sensitivity, the more that productive factor existed. If the group was only women, however, that flattened out. So the diversity was a huge factor in team work and team success. So I thought that was super interesting. This is what I have found working in the state Senate. Now, Victoria mentioned that I was Senate president, and I was Senate president for 2 years. I am currently the majority leader. In the Senate in Alaska, we have 20 members. We have a bipartisan coalition. 9 Democrat senators have joined with 8 Republican senators. 17 out of 20 senators in the Alaska Senate are in a bipartisan coalition working together. How did this happen? I'm asked this all the time. It became so divisive on the Republican side that Republicans, which make up a majority of the Senate, more than 11 of the 20 senators, actually couldn't be in the same room together anymore because they had become so polarized. And so now we're working together, Democrat and Republican. We immediately, of course, recognize those issues that we will never agree on. And we've agreed to set those issues aside and work on the very long list of things that we do agree on, where we can find common ground. And that's what we've been productively doing. Now, one of the things that really has helped us do that, and this is going to call out something that Rhyane just talked about. She talked about something called ranked choice voting. I actually just finished composing an article for the Harvard Law Journal. It will come out in the next couple of weeks about the Alaska model. We now have changed our election system to an open primary. It's a nonpartisan primary. Anyone who wants to run can file for an office. What's happened with that change is in 2022, the first time we ran this new system, we had more women candidates than in the 5 previous election cycles. That was amazing. And not just Caucasian women, but women of color, all diversities. So that was super exciting. So it's an open primary. The top 4 out of that primary go forward to a ranked choice general election where they have to achieve 50%, more than 50% to be the winner. And that was actually how I won re-election. I had been primaried. In other words, the Republican Party was so angry that I had worked with my Democrat colleagues during the time I was Senate president that I actually lost re-election in 2020. But in 2022, with this new, what we call the Alaska model, I actually won re-election because I talked to every single voter in my district. I knocked on every single door. And I have to tell you, it was so much fun. The conversations were so rich. I want to underscore what Rhyane just was talking about with the ranked choice voting. We also now have women in the Alaska Senate. We have 2 African American women. Prior to this, we only had 1. In the House, we have a Filipino woman, Alaska Native, another African American woman. So we're really achieving diversity, and a really huge factor. We have our first Alaska Native woman in the U.S. House of Representatives. Her name is Mary Peltola. I was so excited when she won. She is a Democrat. So this is a way of opening the doors to every person who might want to run for office. Every person would have a chance. They don't have to go through a purity test by a political party. And this opens the door, blows the doors wide open for women running for office. So I'll end there, send it back to Victoria. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this.
Senator Giessel, thank you so much. We're so happy to have you. Really appreciate everything that you had said. Also want to highlight that you are in majority rules. I know that there's a link put in the chat as well. So for those who haven't seen it, please do so. I know that was put somewhere in the chat, and we'll make sure that we put that in again. Again, Senator Giessel is featured. Really important conversations around ranked choice voting. So again, thank you so much for being here, for joining us. We know again how busy you are, and we really appreciate your efforts and your partnership and support of Represent Women. So thank you so much again. And we will keep moving it right along. We are going all over the nation. We are now landing in New York City. And I am happy to introduce New York City Council Majority Leader Amanda Farias, who is with us. Thank you so much for being here. And Amanda, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Farias, a proud council member in the Southeast Bronx and the first Latina majority leader of the New York City Council. So we went from majority leader to majority leader here on the panel. I'm filled with pride and purpose to be with all of you today as we gather for our own 2024 Seneca Falls Convention, especially on a day like today in New York City, where I get to sit on in a council body that has a female majority and an all women of color leadership team in the city council. While we also today are celebrating the New York Liberty winning the WNBA championship. So here in New York, we're having a great Thursday. The urgency of more women in political leadership cannot be overstated. We live in a time where systemic inequities are laid bare, and our democracy demands strong and inclusive voices to tackle these challenges head on. The struggle for women's rights has obviously evolved since the original Seneca Falls Convention, yet disappointingly so many barriers still remain. Hence why Represent Women's Convention today is so important, and why I'm thankful for their work in convening all of us. At the original convention nearly 200 years ago that we heard a little bit about, Cathy Stanton declared in her speech that a just government must derive from the consent of the governed. She continued on and said, we are assembled to protest against a form of government existing without consent of the governed, to declare our right to be free as man is free, and to be represented in government, which we are taxed to support. Though this was 2 centuries ago, I know that these words still resonate with so many of us today. It's the last part of that quote that really stands out for me most. We declare our right to be represented in the government. I think that's the essence of this convention, to acknowledge all of the work that has been done and to consider how we move forward to achieve our goal of gender parity in government. Seeing and hearing from all of the outstanding women here today, I know we are very, very much close to that and to that goal. Women's representation in government is not just a numbers game. It's a matter of justice and functioning government. Our voices are vital in shaping policies that affect our communities, from healthcare to education, from housing to public safety. When women lead, we're not just bringing diverse perspectives, but statistically, we see that everything we touch is more successful because a woman is a part of the decision-making process. My initial run for office was, unfortunately, I think, the story of many women in politics. I was the youngest candidate in the race, and you guessed it, the only woman in a crowded race. I came in second against a decades-long incumbent, but knew instantly that I would run again. And when I did, our local elections that electoral year used ranked choice voting. I learned firsthand through the process the benefits of RCV and why it is fundamental for candidates that look like me and represent communities like me. RCV addresses the systemic challenges faced by women of color and people of color in the electoral process. And it is one of the most direct reasons why New York City has its first women majority council. Before the 2021 elections, women held about 28% of the seats in the body. And after our first RCV election, women now hold 61% of the seats in the city council. I was among a few of my colleagues who had very close races on election nights. I think I was only above 120 votes. But after rounds of RCV, we all won by greater margins, exemplifying the overwhelming support for women candidates when voters are given the option. RCV's success in New York City is the reason why we have a council that has been able to prioritize addressing issues like reproductive health care in the wake of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, maternal health and mortality disparities faced predominantly by Black, Latinx, and Indigenous women, increasing accessibility to childcare services in the city, adjusting the maximum income threshold for rent relief programs for older adults, my menstrual equity bill package, which expands access to menstrual products in city facilities, and so much more. These aren't just women's issues. They are societal issues that affect everyone, whether they realize it or not. And as the head of households, as the caretakers, as the ones getting it done, our society relies on the health and safety of women. It is our job as legislators and leaders to ensure that we are making more of a reality every single day. So to maintain our momentum from today, we must stay engaged and focused. We must continue to push for systemic reforms that promote equitable access to political power. By working together, we can ensure that the gains we make today are continuously laying the groundwork for a brighter future where all voices are heard and valued. And I got this from the last time I spoke with Vote, Run, Lead and with Represent Women. Women are the winning strategy. Let us carry the spirit of Seneca Falls into our work, committed to justice, equity, and representation for all. Together, we can truly transform our democracy and build a future where every woman has a seat at the table and where no one needs to bring their own chair. I'm really honored to be a part of this historic event, and I thank you all for being here with us. And I want to give thanks and appreciation to the women who put this together today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Majority Leader Farias. That was incredible. I couldn't hit my reaction button fast enough on everything that you were saying. So thank you so much. Women are the winning strategy. I absolutely love that. I think that was like if we were in person, that would be like a mic drop immediately. Everybody would be on their feet. So just like feel it in your own space. We're all in our living room. Just like pretend we're all together. And that was like a really momentous and amazing moment. So thank you so much again for being here. Once again, we know how busy all of our speakers are, and I just very much appreciate your work and support and partnership. So thanks for being able to join us. And for those who are just joining us, coming in and out, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, and your name, the organization, where you're joining us from. We are going all over the nation in a virtual sense, started in Maryland and in Maine. We were in Ohio, we were in Alaska, we were just now in New York City, and now I think we're going back to Washington, D.C., if I have this correct. And I am happy to introduce Jennifer Parati-Lim as our next speaker, Executive Director of Republican Women for Progress. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us, and feel free to take it away.
Hi, thank you so much, Victoria. My youngest daughter, Vivian, was so excited to be here. She woke up an hour early from her nap. So obviously we're doing something really important here. But thank you so much for having me. Heading into this election, it's clear that we're 176 years overdue for another Seneca Falls convention. So now is the perfect time. And so thank you to Represent Women for your leadership here. Hopefully we can have another one sooner than 176 years. So a little bit about me. I was a healthcare policy wonk. I never expected to be in women's representation. But I've been in this now for, oh my gosh, since 2015 now. Before we were Republican Women for Progress, we were Republican Women for Hillary. Because back when Donald Trump became the nominee of the Republican Party, that signified to us a huge failure on the Republican side of getting Republican women into positions of leadership within the party and also into elected positions around the country at every level. So that's why we decided to speak out in 2015 and 2016. And of course, following the 2016 election, we were disappointed in the outcome, as I'm sure a lot of you ladies were as well. But we had really tapped into this huge energy around the country of other Republican women who were realizing the issues within the party, especially when it came to women's representation. And when we're talking about gender parity, we do have to talk about Republican women as well. Obviously, we understand it better than, or as well as anybody right now. It's an awkward topic to talk about when it oftentimes seems the Republican Party and women in the party are at odds with what women want generally across the country. So we started Republican Women for Progress in 2017. And we really wanted to drill down on our mission and figure out how to kind of create the same progress that's happened on the Democratic side. Because Democratic women have been at this for much longer than the Republican Party. So we're really starting from scratch on the Republican side. And so our mission is to make sure we're hearing from Republican women across the spectrum in the media. So we do a lot of work with the press and making sure that the Republican women who are trying to work on women's representation, the Republican women who are trying to defend democracy, that people are hearing from them, not just their party, but everybody in government, everybody around the country, to try and turn back some of this momentum we've seen from the Republican Party, which is so often at odds with women's representation. Another part of our mission is to develop and support the pipeline of Republican women running for office, because we not only want Republican women to run for office and win, but we really want Republican women and also Democratic women to run for office who are interested in governing, who are interested in working in a bipartisan way, and who are interested in creating policy. And a lot of the representatives we're getting, a lot of the people in government we're getting aren't interested in that. And especially we see that highlighted at the federal level all the time. And finally, the last part of our mission is to kind of speak out when we see issues in the Republican Party, especially those that affect women. And that obviously is a full-time job. But in terms of developing women to run for office, and kind of address this gender parity issue that we have a 7-year relationship with the campaign school at Yale. On the Republican side, a lot of people don't know this, but kind of signing up for trainings to run for office, tapping into that identity as a woman, and believe that you're fit to run for office, like so many speakers have said, that's just not part of the culture in the Republican Party. So we work with the campaign school at Yale and also other programs across the country to recruit the right type of Republican women to engage in those programs, get trained to run for office, get trained in what it means to govern, because Republicans just aren't training women at the same clip that Democratic women are. And we really try and use Democratic women as the model for how to create momentum in this space and, get women elected. We also, we just released our Women to Watch list yesterday. And these are women at every level of government. A lot of them are incumbents. And these are women who we believe will, if they have been elected, they've been working in a bipartisan way. They've been governing. Young Kim, for example, in California is a great example. She's been on our Women to Watch list for years now. And also new Republican women on the scene who we feel like will create that right momentum that we need at the federal, state, and local level. And we also this year have Men to Monitor, just because we, especially on the Republican side, we need men in the Republican Party to understand all these issues that all of us here do, but that women need to be elected to need to be elected to office. They need to be in leadership positions within the party. And this is something to prioritize, and it just hasn't been prioritized on the Republican side. And so that's kind of how we're working on this issue from Republican Women for Progress. And I think I'm coming up on my time, but I know Sarah in the chat talked about this earlier. Women's representation also depends on women's health care, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So make sure you're getting your ladies checked. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Victoria.
Thank you, Jennifer. Also a great way to end. Thank you for that. Thank you for that reminder. We appreciate you being here so much. All of the work that you're doing with Republican Women for Progress, reading our statement as well, giving us feedback, and again, making sure that we're really welcoming in as many different political perspectives as possible. So we very much appreciate your words and your partnership. And thank you so much for being here. And we will, so get your ladies checked in the chat, which is, again, a great reminder. We appreciate it so much. And we will keep moving right along. So we're going to go to, I think we're now in Virginia. So we've taken a journey together, which has been really nice. We've gone everywhere. We've done a lot. We are now going to be in Virginia, and I'm so happy to introduce Virginia Delegate Jackie Hope Glass, who is with us today. Jackie, feel free to take it away. Thank you so much.
Gratitude, Victoria. Gratitude to everyone for being here. I asked Victoria, I think we on the call getting prepared for this. I was like, I just don't know why I get asked sometimes, right? Why, sometimes I deal with imposter syndrome in a very real way, right? And so coming onto this call, I'm in a sweatshirt. And I was thinking to myself, I need to get dressed. I need to get ready for this. What am I doing here? But I'm going to share with you why and get to the question of why women's representation is so important. Before this call, I was on a 2-hour virtual telehealth meeting with a representative from the VA. Many, many years ago, I was assaulted while I was in the military. And over the past however many years since I got a microphone as being a delegate, I've been working really hard with veterans to get your claims together, take care of yourself, blah, 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 doing the things that we do as women. And it took another woman veteran saying to me, but did you look in the mirror? Did you take care of yourself? And it's hard. It's hard to be in a place where we have to lead and we have to be strong, but we have to take care of ourselves. But it made me think about coming into this meeting from that health assessment, which was interesting in itself. It made me think about my time in the military when we got paternity leave, when we also had a program start called Career Intermission Program. Both of these programs came out of the Women's Policy Office. Both of them. The thing about women and the thing about us, and I'm going to say the thing about myself, because I think there's a level of ownership that we need to have. There was a quote I saw the other day to say, if we don't talk about what we do, we sort of allow our erasure in leadership. Is the thing about the things that I believe that I've done and the things that I see other women doing is showing up and speaking up. When I got elected in 2022, the first, I got elected the day before session started in a special session. I showed up as myself. I didn't know anything else to do. I had sneakers, I had natural hair, and that was radical. I cannot tell you the ish that was talked about me through that process. I wear my grill, and that's considered radical. I said, you wear your necklace, I wear my grill. We're all going to be okay. I didn't get any smarter, any dumber. But there was really a concerted effort to say that you are unintelligent, you are unqualified and unprofessional because you show up as who you are. Having women come and say, dang, girl, you seem so free. And I'm looking at them like, you seem so free, reminded me why we need to see ourselves and we need to see each other in these spaces as our whole selves. I want to say, like, I'm like so proud of Jennifer. I don't know you, but I'm just like proud and grateful for you and sharing space, especially when there's just this overwhelming sort of idea that only Democratic women feel a certain way. Here's what I know is that my existence in my community, because I cannot change the world, I can change my corner, has directly responded to the needs of families, has directly improved the quality of life of people in my space and place. I am proud of that. I am accomplished. I think it is really important that as we look at women being representative in this, that we remind each other that, yes, we have a responsibility. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, there should be excitement and purpose, and that we feel driven to make this huge change. Yes, we will have imposter syndrome because it's real, but we have to do in these spaces, remind each other that these are the things that will happen. The pressure to perform is real, but we got it. There's a heavy level of shame sometimes and of anger of how much my family has to deal with for what this takes away, right? I have to walk away from my daughter's concerts sometimes. I have to tell my husband I'm not coming home at night. But what I see us as women, what we're doing is we're showing them the way to represent. We're showing them how, like, I'm so proud of myself to tell my daughter I am her delegate, to tell my husband that I am his state representative. And you let me know if I can be of service to you, sir, in any way, shape, or form. I will leave with this. We have a microphone, whether we, when I got elected, I chose to bring a woman with me as my chief of staff that was also a service member with me because I brought someone I trusted rather than someone that knew the system. What it taught me is that we don't have to know it all to bring it. And that it is those women lobbyists that I get the best feedback from. It is having a woman chief of staff that has showed me that, like, she hypes my butt up before I get to walking down the halls, get going. We need that for each other. Representation, and someone said it earlier, it is not just about the woman on the ballot. It is not just about the woman in the seat. It is about the women that support the women. We are super grateful. It has changed my life having a microphone. The moment I talked about how parenting is hard on the floor, I had men, police officers, people talking about, yes, Jackie, parenting is hard. We need to talk about these things. And it takes a woman sometimes to just say it. The moment I talked about Black motherhood, other women were like, you know what? I didn't even realize the things you have to consider when you're parenting your child. The moment I talked about sexual assault, sexual harassment, and what we have as a responsibility as a body from all over the Capitol, people stood up and said something. And so I'm telling you, and I'm saying this, your representation is crucial because it is your lived experiences that's going to pull us to better policy, better practices, better people. And we are very good at not sharing. But if we do not share, if we do not show up, if we are not allowing ourselves to be represented, we are submitting to our eraser. So I want to say thank you guys for this time. I know we got 5 minutes was up like 30 seconds ago. But be proud of yourself. Show up and speak up because we need you. I need you.
Delegate Glass, thank you so much. I don't know what I can't even It's just incredible. So thank you so much for everything you said. I'm just like nodding so much. I'm feeling everything that you're saying. I forgot for a second I was emceeing this event and I was like, yes. And then I realized I need to unmute and start speaking. So thank you so much for what you said. And talking about the realness of imposter syndrome as well, how real that is for us, despite all of the incredible accomplishments, being women and being Black women and what that feels like to still feel like you have to reach these these markers that men don't have, and these invisible markers that are created by by the patriarchy. And we've done so much, and that we are still continuing to strive to do more. And that brings in like the health conversation as well, of taking care of yourself. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate you joining us and everything that you had to say. I know the whole chat was just going off while you were speaking. So thank you so much. Also, let me know where you get your grill, because I'm trying to get one for my last council meeting. So when you said that, I was like, let me know. I'm going to need that recommendation. So Delegate Glass, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you always and all of your partnership. And also just seeing Vivian on the chat as well, who's here joining. And I was like, this is great. This is what it's all about. Vivian is here, the next generation of women's leadership. So it's just really nice to be here with all of you, and I very much appreciate all of your time. But we're not done. That was not me closing it up. I was just taking a moment to say this is incredible, and I really appreciate all the speakers and all of you being here. So we're on our little bus. We're driving around the nation, and we are now going to stop in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we're not going to stop just to get some grippos. I think that's what it's called, the chips. We're not just stopping to get the chips, which I got to try at our staff meeting, to our very own state partnerships manager, Tamaya. We are so happy to have Tamaya here as a Represent Women staff member, also an incredible individual, just doing fantastic work. And we are so lucky to have you, Tamaya, as one of our panelists today. So we are now in Ohio. Our state partnerships manager, Tamaya, is here, and I will let you take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And yes, it is definitely the Grippo Chips. So you're from Ohio, you come through Cincinnati, Grippo Chips is where it's at. So I'm just grateful to be here, and just after every speaker today, it just brought to mind one of my favorite quotes, and I think it's weaved into every single speaker. But if you know me, you know I'm a quotes person, and especially coming after you, Delegate Glass, I will say that I am not free while any woman is unfree, even if her shackles are very different from my own. Shout out to Audre Lorde for that magnificent quote. And I'll say it again, I am not free while any woman is unfree, even if her shackles are very different from my own. And I just want to shout out to Represent Women, Victoria, for putting this together. But I've been at Represent Women for about 6 months. And then I've been in politics for about 12, 13 years. And I've never worked in an organization of all women with a board of all women. And credit to badass Cynthia for putting that together. I will say that it reminded me of a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg when they asked her, how many women would be enough for the Supreme Court? And to that, Justice Ginsburg said 9. And if you know anything about civics, there's 9 people on the Supreme Court. And they looked at her crazy, and she said, why are you looking at me like that? If it were 9 men, you wouldn't even question that. And there had been 9 men, so why are we questioning 9 women? So it is such an honor to work for parity in this space. As I thought about what I was going to say today, I thought about the shoulders on which I stand. And I'm trying to take my mind back to the women of color who were excluded from the initial Seneca Falls. And I try to put myself in their mindset, and I'm trying to figure out, and I'm trying to imagine the fortitude and the resilience and the tenacity to show up and fight for something knowing that you weren't going to benefit from it. Organizing and creating organizations Black women did to assist white women to gain their right to vote, only to be left largely alone when they were advocating for their own. As much as I would love to call Black women suffragists, I can't, because by definition of suffrage, you're fighting for the right to vote. However, because of the term intersectionality and the multiple identities, I think Rhyane said it earlier, how we can't separate our gender from our race. But we weren't just in the movement for the right to vote, although that was important. We were also present for desegregation and anti-lynching. So by definition, we weren't allowed to be just suffragists in this movement. A little known fact too, I'm a history buff. I know I'm very cool if you met me, but I'm a super nerdy. in real life. And what a little known fact that a lot of people don't know is that when it came time to pass the 19th Amendment, which gave white women the right to vote, there was actually talks in the Senate about swapping out the 15th Amendment with the 19th Amendment. So the 15th Amendment that gave Black men the right to vote was actually at talks. So there was talks that there couldn't be both. We couldn't give both of these marginalized groups the right to vote. We might have to swap them out. So imagine that. And imagine Black women being in the forefront of both those fights, knowing that they needed both of those in order to vote, but still showing up and sacrificing their bodies every day. You know, I remember being in school and the whitewashing of the suffrage movement, and I heard a lot about, you know, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and, you know, Susan B. Anthony, and wondering, you know, I asked the teacher, why aren't there people who look like me in these pictures? And she said, oh, maybe they just didn't come. And the fact of the matter is they weren't invited, they weren't welcome. So this is a very complex time and a very interesting time for us. But I think the way Black women have continued to show up was a foreshadow of how we continue to show up in today's democracy. The fact that we vote at a higher percentage than any other body of people, the fact that we do this and still the health outcomes and economic outcomes for Black women still remain at the bottom, but we don't stop showing up. I won't talk long, because one thing I do know about public speaking is I have never heard anyone say, gee, I wish that person would have spoken a little while longer. Nobody's ever said that. But I will say that as I think about Sojourner Truth, who was one of those women whose the shoulders that we stand on, and I think about her speech in my home state of Ohio. She gave in 1851 called Ain't I a Woman? And I won't recite the poem for you, but I would like for you, if you haven't heard of it, to go back and listen to it. But one of the things that she did, one of the recurring messages, she asked a bunch of rhetorical questions. And one of the questions that she asked during this poem or the speech was, if my cup won't hold but a pint and yours holds a quart, wouldn't it be mean not to let me have my little half measure? And what she didn't know she was doing was she was foreshadowing wage inequality that we experience today of all women, but Black women even more deeply. So despite her pleas for not just all women during Ain't I a Woman, she also hinted that how Black women, our femininity is constantly negated and ignored. And for us, who work in this space, we always understand that the Black women throughout history have always been the canary in the coal mine. And we sound the alarms for things. We even sound the alarm because we were the number one faces of eviction. We were sounding the alarm for housing crisis, 15, 20 years ago. And now the country has a housing crisis. But if you had listened and let Black women lead, we would have told you we had a housing crisis. We told you about, the as we would say, we have more month than money. That's a cute way of saying, not being paid enough. We were screaming about, wage inequality a long time ago. And I'll just say this before I close. I really appreciate all of you being here. And I will leave you with a quote from Zora Neale Hurston. And it's the reason for this quote, and the reason why I'm giving it to you is because just like you, Delegate Glass, and everyone else, don't quit speaking up about the things that matter. Don't quit speaking up about the things that are important, because as Zora Neale Hurston said, if you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and say you liked it. So thank you so much, everybody, and I appreciate being here today. I'm gonna kick it back to my colleague, Victoria.
Samaya, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate being able to work with you and having you be one of our speakers. So thank you so much for everything that you said. Incredible quotes that I know were also in the chat, lots of reaction. So thank you again for letting us visit you in Cincinnati and hear some of your incredible words. And a huge thank you to our entire panel of speakers. But again, we're not done yet. I keep feeling like I'm getting us ready to be done, but we're not, because I would love to hear some reactions from those of you who have joined us today. If you want to come off mic and raise your hand, we would love to hear how you're feeling. Are you feeling like there's momentum going into 2025? What is keeping you hopeful? Did you hear anything today that really stuck with you before we go to closing remarks? And I also open this up to the Represent Women staff as well, if there's anything additional that you would like to share with our attendees, but would love to give some time to just hear from those of you who have joined us on any reactions that you might have in this kind of town hall format. So pretend you're coming up the stairs to the mic, and we would really love to hear from you. And I see a hand up from Lisa Rice. Lisa, thanks for joining us, and go ahead.
You're welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I was late, but everything I saw was great, of course, because women rock. And just want to make a little pitch for local elections. Local elections matter. And, I wear many hats in this democracy reform movement. And at this moment, I see I still have a background up from a campaign event, and I'm wearing my hoodie, Jackie, and a hoodie. And just want to really emphasize for everyone how important it is to vote down ballot. If you are in a place where you are so lucky to be able to vote for sheriff, to be able to vote for Secretary of State, please do so. Those are very important things. And then, of course, if you are a voter here in DC, please flip your ballot and vote yes on 83. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lisa, so much. So happy that you're here. Thanks for joining us. Also, I apparently didn't get the memo that it's sweatshirt day, and I'm actually annoyed about it because we have really great Represent Women sweatshirts that I almost went and grabbed to put on. I have my furs, my little feathers happening, but I also love rocking a sweatshirt. So I missed the memo on sweatshirt day, but thank you so much for being here, Lisa. Anyone else? Anything that you would like to share? Reactions? How are you feeling? Anything else that you feel like sharing with us? I would love to take some more hands before we close out. And this includes staff and speakers as well. Oh, perfect. Now we can see everybody. This is great. Any additional comments? There's a lot of stuff happening in the chat as well, which is great. Oh, somebody just messaged me and said, what's Prop 83? Lisa, I don't know if you're able to jump back on.
Did I unmute myself? Oh, yeah, I'm on. Okay. Initiative 83 here in Washington, D.C. is a ballot measure to do two things. Number one, let independents vote in closed primaries. 1 out of 6 DC voters, 75,000 of us, are not affiliated with a party, and we'd like to participate in our taxpayer-funded elections. The second part of the initiative is to implement ranked choice voting in our primaries and general. DC is a super majority Democratic district, and therefore the primary is the only election that matters, with the exception of 2 seats. So that's what we're trying to do. We have talked to over 100,000 people to get 40,000 signatures on petitions that were turned in on July 1st, and we made it on the ballot. And so this is what I do. Flip it on the back. It's on the back to vote yes on 83. And if anybody here wants to volunteer, let me know, because we need people to hit farmers markets, phone banking, text banking, all the things.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Also, was just told Sarah's hands up. There's so much happening, and I'm like looking at the chat, looking at the video. So Sarah, I'm so sorry I missed you. Please go ahead. I'm gonna prompt you to unmute, and we'd love to hear from you.
Okay. I just want to say that since I've been involved in the women's movement, not so much recently, but started a long time ago, in 1971, that there are, sadly, obviously we all know about things that have gone back to the way they used to be. I mean, I remember fighting before Roe v. Wade to get abortion legalized. And I remember fighting for ERA before it came out of Congress. Now, of course, we all know that it started with Alice Paul in the 1920s, right after we got the right to vote. But there are other things that have really been, have improved. Like you did mention a little bit about so many women in college and graduating high school. I think there's also a lot of women in graduate schools and professional schools like law and medicine and stuff like that. And that's really amazing. And look at all the women running for office, even president. it's makes my heart feel good. And I'm almost 77 years old. I was like 23 or something like that when I got involved. And it's really been a long journey. And thank you for letting me speak.
Sarah, thanks so much for being here. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate everything that you said, your words, how far we have come, how far we have to go. So thank you so much for joining. And I know everybody was putting up hearts and reacting to a lot of the things that you said. So thank you again for being here. And before I also highlight our voter guide for Represent Women, I saw something in the chat that Senator Giessel, if they're still with us, I'm like scanning, but there was a question on if there's anything that I guess it's for everyone, anything we non-Alaskans can do to support RCV in Alaska. So yeah, Senator Giessel, I would love to hear from you on that.
Unmute. There we go. It's up for repeal this coming November 5th. And so, at this point, I don't think so much. We have a lot of support. I think it's going to be close. The Republican Party is massively opposed to this. In fact, the radical Republicans are the ones running the repeal effort. I just thank you for your support in your own states. See if you can get this kind of reform. It will make a huge difference. I've talked to Idaho, Wisconsin, Montana, Oregon. I mean, all of these states are looking at this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Delegate Glass, I see your hand up as well.
Oh, Cynthia was up before me. I feel like I would be disingenuous not to mention two things. Two things. Number one, shout out to Vote Run Lead. Like that is where all of my stuff started. I just want to say that of just like owning your ish and walking forward with it. Secondly, there is probably a woman on this call who has had an idea or had a thought and somebody like was like, yeah, go on with your little, keep doing your little event over there, your little that still happens. Like that happened, that happens to me all the time with the male leadership. And I'm gonna say, keep doing your little, because what happens is your little turns into a big, and then they be like, well, we see, they will eventually respect your gangster. Okay, so like your tiny little thing that you're doing, because it is not small. I don't know if anybody can understand what I'm saying, but there's a lot of gaslighting and there's a lot of making you feel like the big things that are in your heart are not really big things in the political arena, and they freaking are. So I'm grateful that you're doing your little, because it's not a little, and keep doing it. That's all.
Thank you, Delegate Glass. We know what you mean on the little, like it's cute. It's really cute what you're doing. That was said to me actually when I was I'm in public office and it was voting day and a man came up to me and was like, you're really cute and I hope that you still stay involved in your community after this election, but you're not going to win, but you're really cute. And I always think about that because like I wear my little pink suits to the meetings, I'm wearing my hoops, I always have my nails done. And I'm like, I always think about that man because he has to see me every single time I represent the district that he lives in. And I'm always like, it was cute. It was cute that I won my election, wasn't it? So I very much appreciate those words of continuing forward, despite the adversity and despite the things that people say to you to try to deter you from that. So Delegate Glass, thank you so much for that. I'm checking the time too, because I want to make sure that we have time for our closing remarks, which are going to be incredible. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight in the chat is that down ballot elections are very important. Again, I know that there is so much happening on the national scale, but of course, your local elections matter, and those are going to impact your life on a regular day-to-day basis. So vote on those school budgets, vote on those city budgets, make sure that you are staying informed on what is happening, because there are a lot of moving parts there. And then Represent Women also has a voter guide that we put together as well. I don't know if any of the staff members want to come off mute, Cynthia, Tamaya, or Ashley, and kind of talk a little bit about our voter guide before we go to some closing remarks, but I would welcome that from any of you if you're able to.
I welcome you to do it. You want to talk more about the voter's guide that you put so much work into too?
Well, my colleagues and I, Ashley and Rochelle, we co-authored an op-ed that you will find also in Miss Magazine. Just a voter's guide. Rhyane and State Senator Giessel and few others. I think Delegate Glass too mentioned ranked choice voting. So there are a number of RCV ballots on the or RCV measures on the ballots across the country, depending on what state you're in. So we're just like, sometimes language is so convoluted on the ballots, it's hard to kind of read through it. So we just wanted to show you what we as an organization support and what we don't support. We're not telling you what to do. We're just telling you what Represent Women supports and what we find to be in the best interest of women's parity in politics. So please, you can find it on Miss Magazine, and the link we can drop it in the chat.
And our website.
On our website. Oh, thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate that. Also, I was like, this is going to be my moment to drop a link. Guess who beat me to that link? Ariana, who is the master link share of Represent Women. So Ariana, thank you so much for doing so much work for us and for these events. Also want to highlight, Cynthia put in the chat, democracy reform is on the ballot in Alaska, Montana, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, DC, and Idaho, and also Arizona and South Dakota. Lots of misinformation out there about RCV. So please let us know, Represent Women, if you have any questions. We can talk to you about why it's great for women, why it's great for democracy. That's what we do. That's what our research shows. So we're happy to talk to you or send you any resources that you need at any time. And then there's also a link on key ballot measures to watch as well from Represent Women, which is our voter guide. So hopefully you all can scan the chat as well and get some additional resources that you need, in the spirit of democracy. And before we go to closing remarks, does anybody else have anything that they would like to come up to the mic and share? Doesn't have to be long. We would love to just hear from you and any additional reactions that you have before I pass it over to Ashley. And shout out to the comms team, because somebody put the Represent Women Instagram posts are the reason why somebody is here. And we love to hear that. So thank you so much, Emily. Okay, seeing none, feel free to again put it in the chat. And I am happy to pass it over. We have one more stop to make, and this stop is in Atlanta. And we are going to our communications director, Ashley Thurston, who is here for us. We are super excited, Ashley, to have us, also highlighting the fact that Ashley is the one that put the Declaration of Sentiments together for Represent Women, did incredible work on that. So Ashley, we really appreciate you and all that you have done to bring this project to life, and so excited to pass it over to you for closing remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tori, and welcome everybody to Atlanta. So happy to have everyone here. First of all, I just want to say that just look around, because this is absolutely amazing. We have just surpassed any type of expectation, the diverse faces, the ages. Vivian's here. And so I am just so excited that we came together for this moment. And I've gone to church. I've had a therapy session. I'm wearing my sweatshirt tomorrow. So it's just, I'm getting a grill. Delegate Glass, I'm in Atlanta, so it makes no sense why I should not have one. So I'll be doing that this weekend. That's some self-care. And I'm not going to pay attention to those little, because everything we do is big, big, big. So this has just been amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you, Tori. This spring, my colleagues and I gathered virtually with a single urgent question: will we ever see a woman president? Recognizing the critical moment in history, we understood the necessity of electing a female leader to position our nation competitively on the global stage. The answer was clear. Now is the time for a woman to lead. Reflecting on the original Declaration of Sentiments, we recognize the need for further progress. Notably, the original document lacked the voices of Black women, and we were intentional in highlighting the foundational nature of their contributions as the groundwork for our work. Inspired by this historical context, we created the 2024 Seneca Falls Presidential Pledge, a statement endorsed by our valued partners and stakeholders. This pledge emphasizes the urgent need for a woman president and advocates for systemic reforms to increase women's representation in office. Right now, our nation is witnessing a shift toward greater gender balance in leadership. From Shirley Chisholm to Hillary Clinton to Nikki Haley to Vice President Kamala Harris, we are inching closer to the vision of a woman as President of the United States. Our pledge embodies the spirit of change, vision, and optimism. It's a message that resonates even with our grandmothers. It is time for a woman president. I now present the 2024 Seneca Falls Presidential Pledge. When Victoria Claflin Woodhull, leader of the women's suffrage movement, attempted to run for president in the 1872 presidential election, she was denied because she missed the mandatory age requirement by a few months. Despite trailblazers like Margaret Chase Smith, the first woman in both the House and the Senate, Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman in Congress and first female presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton, a former Secretary of State and U.S. Senator from New York, who was the first woman to receive backing from a major party, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who ran a historic campaign in the 2024 Republican presidential primaries, and Vice President Kamala Harris, who was endorsed as the Democratic presidential nominee on July 21st, 2024. Fewer than 20 women have ever run for president. Crazy. Other countries have taken the lead, surpassing the United States by electing women as their heads of state, with more than 22 women serving as presidents or prime ministers worldwide. While women have made strides in politics, holding positions like mayors of major cities and vice president, they have yet to hold the position of power. They have made historic gains in Congress and state governorships, holding 30% of seats in the House, 25% of seats in the Senate, and 24% of governorships as of April 2024. Will we ever have a woman president? We believe embracing the diversity and perspectives and lived experiences that women bring to the political arena is not just a matter of fairness, but a crucial step toward building a more effective and robust democracy. The majority of Americans agree, and they also believe our country would be better served if more women held political offices. We are committed to working together to ensure that more women run and win at all levels of government, including the most powerful position, the presidency. Represent Women, along with Fair Vote, Rank the Vote, She Should Run, Vote Mama, Vote Run Lead Action, and a community of global experts encourage you to get involved in the movement by calling for the use of ranked choice voting by both major political parties for presidential nominee selection processes, supporting the use of ranked choice voting in local elections, advocating for the use of campaign funds for childcare and security, encouraging women leaders in our communities to run for public office, and eliminating voter suppression by increasing voting power and supporting measures to make voting more accessible, especially in marginalized communities. Now is the time. Women have laid the foundation for running, winning, and serving as president. In the land of the free, it is time for women to lead. When women lead, democracy wins. Thank you, and back to you, Tori.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Such an incredible declaration of sentiments, an updated one from 2024. It feels really powerful that we essentially rewrote it 176 years later and look at, like you had mentioned, such a diverse, multi-generational audience with us, which is really incredible. So thank you so much again, Ashley, for your incredible words, for putting that statement together, for capturing so many viewpoints. We couldn't have done that without you. So very much appreciate everything that you do for us. And before I bring us to a close and we take a little trip to one of your favorite states in the Northeast, I would love if those of you who are with us can put your cameras on so we can get a quick screenshot, if possible, for our social media. We're celebrating women, we're celebrating representation. So everybody's with us who's possible. I don't know if it's too complicated for us to put a little emoji up or not. I don't know, comms team, let me know if that's too much, but I think on 3, we should say women. I don't know. I blanked out. I was like, what should we say? Women? So let's do it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Women. Yay.
Am I the only one saying it? Women.
Hopefully it was captured.
Women.
Our team, we got
Yes, I got it. Thank you, Tori.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you all so much. We're taking our last stop while I close us out in a beautiful state called Maine. I have lobster for you. I have clam chowder. We're going to bring it to a close here. So thank you all so much for joining us. I have to bring us to a close, and I really don't want to because this is such an incredible turnout, an incredible town hall. So let me first thank our speakers once again for being part of this historic event and for all the work that you do in the spirit of women and democracy. I know for a fact that you have all inspired so many of us here. There have been so many retweets and quotes in the chat, so much excitement around what you said. So thank you again. I know, again, it's October. We are in a big election season. I know everybody's very busy. So thank you so much for your willingness to join us. And a huge thank you again to our partners, the original co-signers of this statement along with us, Vote Mama Foundation, She Should Run, Vote Run Lead Action, Fair Vote, and Rank the Vote. And a huge thank you to the Represent Women team for all their hard work in making this declaration and this event such a huge success. The team has been working hard for months, so shout out to the staff and all of your efforts. And a huge thanks to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for spending your afternoon here with us, for signing our declaration, for sharing it, for attending this virtual event, for being so excited, for engaging and building power with us. We appreciate you so much. And what we're going to do is we're going to close the meeting, but we're going to actually keep our screen up for a little bit longer because there's so much information in the chat. And we want to make sure that all of you can gather that information as necessary, get what you're looking for, post anything last minute that you think that we should be on the lookout for, any relevant links. So we'll keep this open for a couple of minutes. But those of us who are here, we're going to say farewell and thank you all so much for being here again. Drink water and take care of yourself these next few weeks, and we will see you all again soon. Thank you so much and take care.